Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Monday, March 29th, 2021. I am Andrew Hansen, back in the studio with Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach. Coach, coming off a restful weekend here, ready to go for a big Monday 11-game slate. Are you ready to attack it?
I am ready to attack it, and it's great to have you back. It was a busy weekend, that's for sure. All the sports going on with tons of NBA, then catching some of this NCAA tournament. And by the way, I'm squeaking up almost to the lead in that little contest amongst our members. So that would give me a little GIF magic for a while. I'll be splashing all kinds of stuff up there. But
If you
yeah,
beat
and then
JP Wild, I'll believe it when I see it.
oh my God, he can't be beat. The dude's just a machine. He's won three contests in a row. How can you do that? I mean, that's craziness. But yeah, it'll be fun. And then getting ready for baseball, opening day on Thursday. I'm so pumped for that. And basketball is really intense now. This is by far the most. I mean, probably by 10 of all the info I had to write down with injuries, probables, all the different things going on. So, I know people complain about that in the industry, about all the changes and stuff going on. I love it, Andrew, because it gives us that edge that we're looking for to uncover, no stone unturned, if you will. So I'm fired up, man. Let's get after this 11.
Yeah, I am too. And I like the fact that now that the trade deadline is passed, we're going to start to get into that cycle of second and third games with these guys on their new teams,
Yeah.
and we can try to take advantage of it. So, starting today with these 11 games, the crazy thing is in today's NBA that there's only 3 of the 22 teams involved in a back-to-back, and then 3 totals over 230 right here at the beginning of the slate. So, get us started with the
Yeah.
first one, Coach. Indiana and Washington.
Yeah, right off the bat, it's a 7 Eastern game. Indiana's favored by 5, and it's a nice fat 234 and a half. So it's up there. We've got some big numbers today and some small numbers. Very few teams, by the way, as you'll see as we go through this, we're not forgetting to mention it, but there's only 4 teams, three teams, 2 on the first night of a back-to-back and 1 on the second. And this happens to be one of the ones on the first night, and that's the Wizards. So they are playing tonight, and then they play again tomorrow night. This is a fun game. I love this game right off the bat. Pace, Indiana ninth, Washington first. Nothing to cry about there. And then defense, Indiana's 11th, which is very respectable. Respectable. Washington's 26th. There is a couple pieces of news here that are of value that affect the rotation. McDermott is questionable for the Pacers, and Bradley Beal is questionable for the Wizards. So we dive into this game right off the bat, and certainly some good exposure in this game can be had. First of all, on the Washington side, I mean, you start your build, in my opinion, if Beal's out, or even if he's I don't think watching him play and that hip killing him like that, and he was literally limping. I don't know if he goes. If he does, I don't feel he's 100%. So I'm just going to start right off, Andrew, and spend the money and go Westbrook. I mean, why not? He's been just phenomenal, and Indiana rotates a lot of guys. I know McConnell can give him a little trouble off the bench. Brogdon's a decent defender, but it's Westbrook, and without Beal's usage, if he sits, and even if it's just a limited Beal, it's how do you go away from Westbrook? I mean, it's these two guys are bust for this team. The other guy I have to mention, because we've mentioned him multiple times in a row here, because he's earned it, is Rui Hachimura. He's playing bigger and bigger minutes, 38, 40, 41, and he's productive. He's hitting some threes, much more involved, playing, something flipped with him. I don't know, maybe it's his motivation because his Gonzaga team is undefeated and going to the championship, so he's probably loving that. That's giving him a little extra boost. But Westbrook and Hachimura right in play for me right off the bat. And then something you and I discussed, I think it was this weekend or Friday. My interest in Indiana's waning a bit. I just think that they're so good and they have so many good players, and they still haven't got TJ Warren. Then it even gets tougher. But the addition of Levert, for me, from what I'm watching, he's their go-to guy. I mean, he is a star, all-star in the making, and I at times Brogdon takes a back seat to him. The times when Sabonis would get that ball in the post, the shots going up. So I just see everybody else shrinking down a little bit. And it's interesting. I went back in Basketball Reference and looked at it today. The guy that's benefiting with Levert there, would you believe it's Miles Turner? And that's because there's more jump shots going up and he's able to crash the boards more. Plus, Levert's not a great defender yet. He's good, but he's getting there. And we know Turner is the best off the ball defender to help side to come over, get blocks, and do whatever he needs to do. So that correlation's interesting. So I'm going to keep an eye on Turner. Levert is the guy if I had to go somewhere, but I need to see a little bit more on a consistent basis how the dust is going to settle in Indiana. And I know this is a phenomenal spot for them. I mean, it is a massive pace up. Considering they're ninth, you wouldn't think it would be, but Washington's first. So it is a big pace up game for them. They're going to score a lot of points. And I think people are going to roster a lot of guys from the Pacers. But my feeling is the split of minutes and usage and points between Brogdon, Levert, Sabonis, McConnell, Turner, just they're getting a lot of input. And I'm just not comfortable with using a couple spots here on that side when it may be divvied up a little bit. But if I had to go, I'd go Levert. But I definitely like Westbrook and Hashimura on the Washington side.
Yeah, it is a little bit puzzling to have this matchup, but not get too excited about anybody on Indiana. But I'm with you. It's a little bit crowded now with Levert, and looking at Brogdon, the price is so attractive on FanDuel. But if you look at the history here, he does not have a single game over 40 fantasy points since Levert has been in the lineup. And
Exactly.
that is not a coincidence. So will this be the day that trend breaks? I mean, of all the days, you'd think that this would have the best chance. So he's a possibility, but just not thrilled about these guys because of their prices and the split usage. Holiday is still very cheap on FanDuel at $3,800. He's a GPP option for me with all those threes that he takes. If he's hitting, he could smash it. If he's not, then it'll be a dud.
Yeah. And, I mentioned 6 or 7 guys. I didn't even mention him.
Right.
So it goes to show you how the depth is there,
Exactly. And then on the Washington side, Westbrook will be in play for me if Beal is out, also Rui. And then the other guy you could look at is Denny Avdia, another GPP option, cheap on both sites.
Yep. He's improving and getting more minutes, and he's starting again. So you never know.
All right, game 2, we have another solid total here as New Orleans is going to play in Boston. 230.5 total. Boston favored by 4. This is an NBA TV game, and it's if you look at the rematch, look at the first matchup here, all the studs hit value. Ingram, Zion, Jaylen Brown, Tatum. But remember, that was an overtime game, so everybody got a little bit of an extra boost there. I'm still interested in the New Orleans guys. It's Boston in that 21st ranked defense. They're reasonable prices. They've both been playing excellent lately. I also like these guards a little bit. If Lonzo Ball is out again, he's questionable. That'll be some really important news here. Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been starting, been playing pretty well, solid price tag. Kyrie Lewis Jr. also in the mix for me. And the thing that I like in the last game is that they were on the court for at least 9 minutes together. Because Na played 32 minutes, Kyrie Lewis Jr. played 25. So if you're not used to kind of looking at that and figuring out the math, because they played 57 minutes together, that means they had to have played at least 9 minutes on the court together.
I gave up trying to figure that out because I ran out of toes and fingers.
Right. Well, this is the type of thing that might interest you, Coach, because you don't like splitting minutes with guys who play
It is for
quote
sure.
unquote the same position,
Yeah,
but it's a different rotation now. Again, with Lonzo Ball out and Kyra is still really cheap, so I like one of those guys potentially, and Josh Hart is in play also if Ball is out, and he got 37 minutes against Boston, so that gives you some comfort that Coach Van Gundy likes Hart in this matchup, which makes sense. Boston, all those wing type players, Hart really makes sense in this game. On the Boston
absolutely.
side, the big piece of news here is Evan Fournier. He hasn't played yet because of the health and safety protocols for the Celtics. If he does, will he start? Will he come off the bench? My prediction is that he'll come off the bench to start when Kemba is playing. They'll go Kemba.
And then he'll come off the bench to start, and then start to come off the bench.
Yeah, we'll have to watch that one. I think they'll go with Kemba, Marcus Smart, Brown, Tatum, and Williams. And then when
Right.
Kemba takes the occasional day off, I could see them maybe bringing Fournier into the starting lineup. But when he does come off the bench, he's going to be the guy that they've been looking for to,
Yeah.
really actually be a potent scorer. They haven't had that on the wing. But if he plays tonight, then I'm not as excited about these Boston studs because we need to see how many shots he takes, how much he takes away from Jaylen Brown and Tatum. So I'm
Definitely.
more interested in the New Orleans studs, but I also am interested in Robert Williams as the starter here. Solid price, mid 6K range. So he'd be the Celtic I'd be most likely to play tonight.
Very good. How long have we been jumping out of our seats yelling Robert Williams needs to be their starting center and their center of the future? He was the third string guy, and we're screaming, this guy has to play. And they're finally playing him, and man, is he smashing it?
Yeah,
He looks
absolutely.
great. So for me, this game's pretty simple. It's not going to take a whole lot of time because if Ball's out, I'm going with Nikhil Alexander-Walker. Anytime you tell me that Nas is going to play 30 plus minutes, I don't care who it's against. I'm playing him because he's an offensive minded player. He's not a good defender. He's an offensive minded DFS scoring kind of player. So that's what I'm going to follow there. If Ball's back, then he's not in play for me. It's that simple. I don't want 18 minutes of a guy in my lineup with 22 teams playing. So I'm waiting on that news. As far as the big dogs, and I'll tell you, watching Zion lately, he is a man amongst boys. He took the ball at a couple big dudes and just like they weren't even there. I mean, you talk about a big, strong guy. I'm more and more impressed with him every time I watch him, and I think he's getting better. And I'm tempted to take him, but I'm not going to take him in this matchup because, both Ingram and Zion, fantastic, but it is against an improved interior defense, I believe, for Boston. I mean, they're climbing up defensively a little bit, and I just think that this isn't the perfect matchup for the Pelicans to spend up to those two guys. On the Boston side, though, I do like Robert Williams. He's certainly in my mix here. He's can outquick Adams big time, and so really, it's not a huge game for me. I agree with. I think you hit the nail on the head. Evan Fournier is a shooter, and I don't think he cares if he was on the floor with Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. He's going to shoot, and that could really take a dent in the DFS world out of specifically Walker and Tatum, or I mean Brown and Tatum, and it doesn't really do any favors for that guard rotation for Walker and Smart. So I'm very hesitant. I want to see how that's going to play out. I agree with you. I think that they'll bring Fournier off the bench initially, but he's one of those head game guys that needs to, I think, feel like he's the main scorer. You can just read his body language because when he doesn't get shots up or get the ball, he just sort of shrivels down and he doesn't play good defense. So, he needs to be part of what's going on out there, or I don't think they're going to get out of him what they can. So if that's the case, that usage and those shots have to be taken from somebody. So that's what we need to see play out before I feel comfortable rostering any of those guys I mentioned other than Williams, because he's unaffected. In fact, it may help him a little bit because instead of Tatum specifically and Brown finishing at the rim, Fournier is more of a jump shooter, and that's going to get Robert Williams, who's an outstanding offensive rebounder, a few more 4 or 5 attempts to get a putback or an offensive rebound, and that's going to help his side of the coin. So that is it. I'm hoping Nah can play if ball's down, and Williams' price is still good enough. I think he can be a serious center on this slate.
Excellent.
All right, we go to the next game. It's a 240 game, Andrew. Can you believe this?
Juicy.
Minnesota, Brooklyn, 7:30, 240 and a half. That's beautiful. But here's the problem. Minnesota's a 12-point dog. So we got blowout potential, something to be concerned about. Kyrie back. Brooklyn's got every all-star. I think 9 of 12 guys have been on an all-star team. I know that they have more they have more appearances in the playoffs than like 7 teams combined of the younger teams. So it's ridiculous how they keep adding. Now Aldridge is in tow with them. So this could be a great DFS game. I mean, just your eyes light up. Minnesota, Brooklyn, oh my God. But it's got to stay close enough. That's the key. Right now, pace-wise, 3-13. Defensively, 27-24. Magic, music to our ears. For Minnesota, Okogie and D'Angelo Russell still remains out. Aldridge, questionable. I doubt he plays right off the bat like this, but he has a questionable tag right now. And then we know Durant and Shamet are still out, but Kyrie's back. So, there's so many options here. It's ridiculous. I mean, you can go with a cheaper Rubio, but I'm going to recommend staying away from him. Now that Beasley's back and Beasley and Edwards are such offensive-minded players, I think you're going to see Rubio fade into the sunset here. And then when D'Angelo comes back, that's going to end there. But Beasley and Edwards are your 2 guys. They're the guys that are going to score on the move. And then, of course, Cat, if you want to spend all the way up for Cat in a game that may blow out, which scares me. And, I prefer a little bit more to talk about Beasley and Edwards here because I think they're the guys that are going to get a lot of stuff in transition and really take advantage of that pace. I think they'll both get more run if it does start to blow out, where Cat will sit right away. Edwards has been pretty bulletproof when it comes to blowouts, and he's not ashamed to fatten those stats. You could tell he's all about getting buckets. They were down 35 or something, and he was playing the other day, and he was going to the hoop like it was tied. So, that's a good thing for DFS folks, but not great for the T-Wolves because he's definitely a bit of a selfish player. But, Beasley's right there, man. He looked great in his first game back, obviously stayed in good shape. We talked about that on the last podcast. We wanted to see if he was going to be ready. He was. So he's in play. I'm also not going to go up to the 2. I know this sounds crazy, Andrew, and I hope you disagree with me. So we have some different variants here. But I'm just so worried about this game blowing out that now that Kyrie's back, with Kyrie and Harden sharing the ball, and the price is so high, and I know Harden's been the best player in DFS the last 2 weeks. I just don't want to go there. There's a lot of choices, so you don't have to dumpster dive, and there's not like dead value where you have to go after it, and you can roster these guys. And now you've got Blake Griffin taking a bigger role. It still takes some assists and things away from those guys. And I just don't feel comfortable with this game, even though it's 240, even though it should be, very stackable. You're going to see a lot of people with Cat and Harden for sure. You're going to see some Kyries and Beasleys. And, there's going to be a lot of ownership in this game. But my edge and my shift here is, I don't think with all of this talent and the potential blowout that anybody's going to be throwing 75 DFS points up on the board just because of the sharing and that potential. So I know I'm going to be contrarian here. I think it's going to give us an edge because the rest of our lineup, and my lineup anyway, is going to be stronger across the board without having to pray somebody gets 15 to 20 DFS points. So maybe a Beasley or Edwards for sure on that side. And I doubt I'm going to take a net. First time I've done that in a long time.
I'm pretty similar tonight.
Are you?
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't want to take any of the peripheral Brooklyn guys with all
Yep.
those bigs. DJ Claxton, Blake Green,
Yep.
maybe Aldridge. So not going to mess with those guys. It would be Harden or Kyrie. And with Kyrie back, I think he'll step right back into the mix here. He's had some great games recently, but he hasn't been getting 60 fantasy points with
No.
Harden, and now his price is almost 10K on both sites. So it is tempting to get one of these guys, in this great matchup against Minnesota. I might lean Kyrie a little bit since it's his first game back, and I think Harden will let him take his turn tonight. But I just don't know if I can do it on this 11-game slate. So I am also more likely to get Beasley or Edwards. I prefer Beasley since he's a lot cheaper on FanDuel, 5,600. Didn't shoot well last game, got 17 shots. And one of those guys, or both of them, could really smash against Brooklyn's bad defense. So I like to look there. And with Cat, I want to mention that he had a great game last time out, but only took 11 shots.
It's
And,
unbelievable.
with Beasley and Edwards on the wing, the trouble is you kind of got to go through those guys to get to
Yeah.
Cat a lot of times. I mean, Rubio can certainly play the pick and roll with him, but Beasley and Edwards are the types that catch it on the wing, and they want to either jack it or Edwards will take it to the hole. So it's another thing to keep an eye on is with Beasley back, how many shots is Cat getting on a nightly basis? You could look at a value play like Jade McDaniels on FanDuel. He's 3,700, but I'm not, so confident in his output that I think it's a really strong value play. But it'd be strange to pass this game completely. So,
No.
it may be Beasley for me, and then we continue on through the slate.
Wow. I'm shocked that we agree on that. We didn't talk pre-show at all. So that's amazing. And I love it, though. I think we're on the right path. I really do.
All right. Well, the next stop on the path is Miami and New York. And this is the complete opposite of the last game. Everything you do not want in a DFS game. Slow pace, bad offenses, and awesome defenses.
Yeah.
It's 0 for 6 in the variables that we look at, and sure enough, the total is 208. Miami favored by 4 here in New York. The injury news pretty significant because Oladipo is still out, Akpala is out, and now Nunn is out, and Dragic is probable. On the New York side, Randall is questionable and Bullock is questionable. Two guys who often start and get 36 to 40 minutes or more. So
Right.
it could be some big opportunities opening up, but it's just not a great game. So is it a complete pass? At first glance, I thought it might be. If you dig in a little bit, there are one or two guys I think you could look at on both sides. On the Miami side, it would be Hero for me. Still a good 5K range price without Nunn. I think he gets a boost. And if Dragic does not play, then I'm going to think long and hard about Hero. Ariza has really been playing well. He's
Yes.
finally been priced up on DraftKings now, so he's not locked in, but he got 41 fantasy points last night. So he's taken advantage of that starting role, and now Olynyk is gone. But Bielitsa is now available for his first appearance.
Oh, great.
And we don't know how that's going to affect things. I'm not going to play Bielitsa on FanDuel, but 3,000 on DraftKings would be a GPP flyer you could take. But most likely Hero or pass for me on Miami. With New York, if Randall and Bullock are out again, we may get Burks and Taj Gibson starting again. And I think they're both playable. Taj was excellent as a starter, and Burks had a huge game in your lineup. And
He was awesome.
you get the big usage bump with Burks and RJ Barrett, but I would lean Burks a little bit here. He's cheaper, and I think he's less likely to get the Jimmy Butler defense. I think Butler will focus on RJ Barrett most
Right.
often. And then I'm not going to mess with these New York guards with Rose back in the mix. And by the way, Mitchell Robinson, of course, still out, so that's why Gibson might start if Randall is out. So maybe a one-off here in a game that I don't expect a lot of scoring in.
Yeah, I'm going to catch up on my side of the time here. I mean, when you're looking at this game is 32 and a half points lower of an over under than the last game. That gets your attention. All the stats that you said get the attention. I do think Dragic plays, so I think they're crowded again in that backcourt, even with none out. I don't like the matchup. Maybe if they were playing different teams, Noel starts to become in play again now that Mitchell has a broken hand, so he'll be the starting center. The key factor is if Randall plays, then for me, there's nobody from the Knicks that's interesting. If he doesn't play, I think Burks has to pick that load up like he did the other day, and they go to him, and he gets the extra minutes. So if Randall's out, I'm going to consider Burks again. And I agree with you. I like RJ Bear, but not with Jimmy Butler focusing on him, which he will be. And just this game just is not needed, in my opinion, with 22 teams playing. So it's a quick pass for me, other than a possibility of Burks if Randall's out.
Okay.
Oh, for some reason my computer's dying on me. Let me check my plug. Sorry.
All right. I can still see you. I'll start to introduce the next game. It's 8 o'clock. We're going to go with Toronto in Detroit. And this is a back-to-back for Toronto.
I'm going to finish this game. I'm going to step around and change my plug. Hold on.
Okay. So a back-to-back for Toronto after that loss to Portland last night. Lower total here, 217.5. Toronto favored by 4.5. And this is interesting with Toronto because Lowry is questionable. He was a scratch yesterday, and we've got all these Toronto guys going against their former coach, Dwayne Casey. And Coach, if you can hear me, I wonder if you had as much confusion as me last night. I was really struggling. I was watching the Toronto Portland game, and I'm red green colorblind. So when you get these strange uniforms and a strange looking court, and then you get those guys who had switched teams, I had the hardest time keeping track of who was on what team. I mean, my brain just had not processed that trade yet with those colors to be able to sort it out. So I'm glad that Toronto is not playing Portland here, that they're playing Detroit. Yeah. But it's not a great game environment with Detroit's 24th pace, and it's just sort of a blah game to me. Lowry is really cheap. If he plays, he could be a GPP option. Van Vliet is playable to me because his price dropped a little bit, and he's no big deal for a back-to-back for him.
Right.
On the Detroit side, it just continues to be such a mess with that backcourt.
Oh, my God. It's so hard to figure out.
Last time, Saban Lee started with Ellington, and again, we have Dennis Smith Jr. out and Magruder doubtful, but we still have Frank Jackson, Josh Jackson. Corey Joseph played 29 minutes last game, and don't forget about Diallo. He sat out that game, and so he'll be playing again. So not going to go with any of those guys. Jeremy Grant is probable. If he sits for some reason, then Sadiq Bey would be a GPP option. I don't like his inconsistency lately, or this matchup really. Guys like OG and Anunoby can really give him a hard time.
Right.
But somebody's got to shoot, so maybe he has a decent game. Plumlee, for some reason, I feel like this could be an opportunity for him. We'll see what Toronto does with the center spot. Sometimes they start Siakam there now. Could be Baines. We don't know. But, this is just a kind of a blog game for me. Maybe a one-off, but decent chance I'll just pass it.
Yeah, I hate this game. I mean, these two teams deserve each other. They're such a bizarre set of circumstances here. I mean, Toronto's 10 games under 500. Why didn't they trade Lowry? I mean, what's going on here? It makes no sense. And then he sits that last game out of nowhere. And I just, all these new pieces have to get into place and figure out usage. And, Van Vliet stepped up a little, but not where I thought he would. They're trying to get Trent shots. Like you said, that he hates Boucher. He's only plays him when he's forced to, and then Boucher smashes every time.
Right.
None of it makes any sense. And then on the Detroit side, I mean, let's face it, man. They're just going to try to do an extended tryout G League period here, rotate just a boatload of guys. That's why I'm not playing Plumlee anymore, because I really think Isaiah Stewart is either going to play as much or more minutes. Grant's the only guy that needs the ball and you can use at times, but he's not even been reliable lately because you're having all this constant movement of all their guards and, Corey Joseph there now. And I just hate this game. In fact, I hate these two teams right now. You're not going to see me rostering a lot of Raptors or Pistons unless they're in super ideal matchups, and playing each other here is not what I would consider an ideal matchup. So pass.
All right,
How's
excellent. It sounds good. Yeah. Let's go to the next 8 o'clock game. Memphis in Houston, down in your
Yes.
neck of the woods. 221.5 total. Memphis favored by 5.5. And the big news is on the Houston side. Christian Wood questionable with an illness. Avery Bradley questionable. And House is available to get back in the lineup. So let's see what happens with Wood here. If he sits again, Kelly Olynyk really stepped up and took advantage of that opportunity. 25 minutes, he hit value, and then it was foul trouble and a blowout, so he didn't play late. But he's 4,400 on DraftKings, which I think is a terrific price. Yeah. And I think he would play solid minutes against Valanciunas and be able to hold his own and pick up some rebounds. So he's in play for me, especially on DraftKings. Wall and Porter Jr., I could potentially go with one of those guys as well. Memphis is 7th defensively, but they are 6th in pace, and Houston is 5th in pace.
Right.
So I think Wall and Porter Jr. will push it up and get a bunch of shots up. So you could go with one of those guys. On Memphis, man, if you look back at what they did in that last game, complete split minutes, it was a back-to-back. But just keep that in mind with Memphis because they have a deep rotation anyway. This is an island game for Memphis, so probably the stars will get a little bit better minutes. Maybe a guy like Ja pays off. Clark is still a decent price off the bench, but for me, it's more about potentially a Houston guy here. I don't think I'll get to Memphis.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't the greatest game either. I mean, the pace, even though it's very solid, you get, decent defenses here. I mean, I'm almost echoing what you're saying. I mean, if Wood sits, then I think Olynyk at that price is one of your nice value plays that makes everything else work. The majority of shots are going to be made or taken, I should say, hopefully made on their behalf, but is Wall and Porter. Those guys are both playable commodities. Their price isn't that great though. And but those would be the three guys I'm considering from Houston. Obviously, if Wood starts, that bumps Olynyk out. And then Joe Val on the other side, I think is in my player pool for my centers. I think that Houston's pace and all the shots that go up, it could be a rebounding frenzy for Joe Val. And, it's getting closer and closer. We're probably only like 3 weeks away from Triple J coming back for Memphis. And that will really hose up the interior guys with Kyle Anderson and Clark getting a lot of minutes there. But until then, Joe Val's still their main rebounder. And, he does throw some inconsistent games up there. But I think this game is conducive to him having an optimal game. After that with Memphis, though, I mean, Ja Morant is in play just because John Wall's not a good defender and the guys off the bench aren't that good of defenders. And, who are they going to put Jayshawn Tate on? I don't think, he'll go and play a Ja. I think he'll be more focused on like a Dylan Brooks or Kyle Anderson. So, Ja potentially, Joe Val potentially, and then only Olynyk if Wood sits. And I'm going to take a second look if I can fit either Wall or Porter in from the money side. So a one-off on each side at the very most, but certainly a game that could end up being a pass if the salary doesn't work out.
All right. How about your Mavericks?
The Mavs, for their last game, they basically forfeited again, even though they fought and tried to win. But they sit a completely healthy Porzingis, zero injuries, 100% healthy. Didn't want to play him on a back-to-back, and yes, there was a little bit of back stiffness for Luka, and he sat, but he was okay too. So the Mavs somehow are 23-21, and their philosophy is just to, baby these players as much as they can. I just wish we had Tibbs as a coach. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy. But now they get to play an Oklahoma City Thunder team who beat Dallas, because it was another one of those forfeit games where they didn't play hardly anybody. And they're a double-digit favorite here. So my concern is, 10-point favorite. It's only a 218 total. We don't know if they're going to baby some of these guys like Luka, and you would think, Porzingis, would get some run, but who knows? You just don't know what they're going to do. Boban, how about the Boban sighting for 28 minutes the other day? I think that's a career high for minutes for Boban. But yeah, right now Cauley Stein remains out. Redick hasn't really reported to the team yet. He has some foot injuries going on, and Terry's out, the rookie. And the big thing for Oklahoma City, and the reason it's a double-digit number, is Shea and Dort. The heart and soul of that team are out. So, and Muscala as well. I think Muscala has seen his last days now that they signed Moses Brown to a multi-year contract. So what do we do here? Very simple for me. I'll cut to the chase. Moses Brown is my favorite play here. Dallas has interior defense that probably couldn't stop a fifth-grade girls team. So not to be negative to the girls' basketball side, but fifth grade, yeah. So I like Moses Brown. I think he gets plenty of runs, since now out of nowhere, Al Horford's taking his ball and going home and just is done with this, which is shocking. So, it does open the door for Brown. I would imagine the Thunder said, hey, we'll pay you these, tens of millions of dollars. Can you please just go home and watch on TV, and we're going to let Moses play? So it is what it is. But I think you got to look at him first of all. Theo Maledon becomes playable now because he's getting the big minutes and has the keys to the car, if you will. Don't want to go through all those other OKC guys. I actually did you see I had Pokashevsky on my clipboard the other day?
Okay.
So he's actually starting to win me over a bit, but he got hurt in the last game a little bit. So I don't know if he's going to be 100% going in. So I'm not going there. Mavericks-wise, you can play Luka every day if you want, but if it's a blowout, he's not going to get extra run. And same thing with Porzingis. I think Porzingis is playing well. His price is a little better than Luka. But, the Mavs really have all the bullets in the gun for this game. Not that I think they need them against a really depleted Thunder team. So for me, Moses needs to split the Red Sea for me and show me to the pot of gold, because that's probably the only spot I'm going in this game.
Yeah, I like Moses as well. My favorite play in this game. Maledon also in play for me. The other guy on OKC that I would consider is Svi Mykhailiuk, and I'm curious to see if they'll start him without Dort.
Yeah, but can you spell Svi Mykhailiuk?
All you need is SVI, and don't have to worry about the last name.
47 points on FanDuel, on Scrabble for his last name.
Definitely. Yeah. So I like him for that, and he's a Jayhawk.
Yep.
Good price here, 4,000 DraftKings, 3,700 FanDuel. He's a better price than Ty Jerome, and I think very good chance he'll end up with more shots. Doesn't have the assist potential as Jerome, but if Svi's going to start, he's a potential value play for me. And I don't think I'm going to go anywhere on Dallas other than maybe Porzingis in a GPP. 2 big ceiling games in a row. Should be rested. And if do you think that Roby will be on Porzingis? and Brown will deal with your favorite power forward there, Kleba, power forward slash
Well,
center.
it's a tough matchup for the Thunder because Kleba is a 3-point shooter. He'll go stand in the corner, and you don't really want Brown to be pulled out. So, also, a lot of times Porzingis thinks he's Trae Young and shoots from the logo. So one of those guys, Roby's, it's not going to be a good matchup. Brown's going to have to guard two bigs that shoot threes. So, it's going to be a pick your poison thing. I've got a feeling that they'll have Brown guard Kleba and Roby guard Porzingis just because of the dexterity of Roby. And they want to try to at least keep Brown with a foot in the paint if he can get there.
That's what I think too, and that's why Porzingis is a little bit attractive to me because I think he's got the size to handle Roby. So I'm thinking about Porzingis there, but
it's a good spot for him. It's just, does he get to play enough because it might blow out or not,
That's right. All right, well, the next game, it's the only 8:30 tip, and it's an attractive game. It's Sacramento, also in Texas, against the Spurs.
Yeah.
228 total. Spurs favored by 2.5. Island game for both teams. The news for Sacramento is that Hassan Whiteside is questionable. And on the San Antonio side, I'm going to mark Gorgie Jang as questionable because the indication is that San Antonio is going to sign him. And then Devin Vassell is probable. So with Sacramento here, first of all, we always like their games because they're 10th offensively. They're the worst defensive team in the NBA. And they're 9th offensively. They score it. And Fox has been on an absolute heater. Listen to his points the last 4 games. Not fantasy points, but actual points. 30, 37, 44, and 36.
Wow.
Keeps getting it done. In San Antonio, they're decent defensively, but 16th pace. So that's good enough for me to consider Fox again. And he is the primary target for me on Sacramento. Don't trust anyone else quite as much. Don't love the matchup for Holmes against Pirtle. And do want to mention, if you haven't been paying attention here, who is it that's playing for Sacramento's bench now? DeLon Wright has made his appearance. He got 23 minutes last game. Terrence Davis, 18. And then Mo Harkless with 12, and Metu was also there. So that could change if Hassan Whiteside plays, but basically a totally different bench for Sacramento. So I'm focused more on Fox there. And on the San Antonio side, this might actually be a game where I'd run it back with a spur or two because of that awesome matchup. DeJounte Murray's playable. Very good price on both sides for him. He's been solid lately. DeRozan you could look at in a game like this. Pirtle, I like the matchup for him. It's just the problem is there's a couple other value centers that we like that we've already mentioned with Williams and Moses Brown. Yep. And then even Keldon Johnson. He had that random 2020 game against Cleveland. Is this the game where he shoots back up again at a good price in an awesome game environment?
Spin the roulette wheel, man. Yeah. That's about how confident you can feel figuring him out.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So I could play a spur here to go along with Fox, and there's a decent chance that I'll do that tonight.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I like your takes for sure. This is just such a frustrating game because, again, here's another team that we like to often tackle their games, Sacramento, because of their lack of defense. But I don't know, man. Fox, I watched that last game. I watched almost the whole game because it was, on at a different time. And he was awesome. I mean, you talk about a guy that took not even a whisper of him in the All-Star conversation, and he really did deserve a whisper because Sacramento's 21-25. They have a lousy coach. They turned over half their team at the trade deadline, and that's very respectable under the circumstances. And mainly it's because of Fox. He is fantastic. Now the problem is, Pop knows that, so he's going to get DeJounte Murray right in the teeth right off the bat. I know that they'll send some doubles at him. They're going to try to get the ball out of his hands. So that is a bit of a concern for me. I sort of like Halliburton here. That stupid minutes cap thing that hung over his head for a week or so is gone. The kid can score. He's got a nose for the ball. He's getting good minutes. but I'm not thrilled to run to him. I just like his price. I think you get fair run for it. So small consideration there. Really, Whiteside's questionable. If he does play, that certainly takes away from Holmes. So not running to the Kings. The guy that I do like one guy out of this game, and it's the main guy, DeMar DeRozan. They don't really have a super answer on the other side for him defensively. He'll see some Hield and some Barnes and some of their bench players, but DeRozan's back into a groove now after that time off, with the funeral of his dad and all that. So he's been back now a week or so, enough games under the belt. He's, focusing back in. And I think he's a really good play here. And it's hard to not want to roster somebody against the worst defense in the league. They're playing at home. Here in Texas now, they're opening these, most of the teams up to, 50% capacity. So, now you've got thousands of fans in there rooting for the Spurs. That's a big boost to that, those teams that are able to do that. And, I think DeRozan can feed off of that a little bit here as well. So really, may come out of here with DeRozan, who's one of my guys I've got penciled in, and then possibly one of the Sacramento guards, but that is it.
All right. How about the 9 o'clock game?
Yes, first 9 o'clock game. Well, is this the only 9 o'clock?
Yep,
Yeah, it is. There's two 10 o'clocks. Yeah, Cleveland at Utah. It's only a 16-point spread. This is like an NCAA game. It's like Gonzaga versus, Sister of Mercy State or whatever they've been playing. Some of these teams, but. Let's just say it right off the bat. Does the game blow out, and is it going to jack up this entire game? Well, there's a couple of things here. You've got Prince questionable, Jarrett Allen out. That's the big news. They have no Jarrett Allen, so that changes things. But Hartenstein is probable, their new center that's going to back up Allen, but may end up getting some decent run at the big. Nance was fine. He's very usable. He started at center. He may start at center again, but it's against the stifled tower, and he may lose some minutes and some rebounds to Hartenstein. So I'm not real high on Nance today in this matchup. I don't like the blowout potential here. Normally, I'm all over Sexton and Garland. And yes, Cleveland is giving a little extra run to their youngs. Thomas, who looked really good the other day. He was like, who is this guy out there? But he's had a few games, a few starts, and, he's got some ability. It's just, Sexton, Garland, Thomas are all guys I'd like to talk about and consider rostering, but they're a 16-point dog at Utah. The elevation, Utah's on fire. They probably get Conley back, so they have never seemed to be missing anybody except Conley on back-to-backs. And, their defense is just fantastic. They just carve up everybody. So not going to go there, but I do have the big eyeball emoji thing on Cleveland for sure going forward. Utah, same scenario here. Why spend up for a Mitchell when this game could be over at halftime? And, if it does stay a little close, I still think they use some bench. I still think there's not potential for just huge minutes for the Utah guys. Their bench is decent, and I don't think they're going to have a single guy out, and you're going to get run from the Favors and all these guys and Yang, and it just doesn't make sense to me, and I'm going to try to steer clear of rostering anybody from this game, although if you guys are tempting, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell has been ultra hot, but now his price is at least $9K on both sites.
Yep.
So this is the day I probably will step aside from rostering him.
Okay.
And then on the Cleveland side, Nance has been the key guy, but you mentioned the matchup against Gobert, and then Dean Wade has really stepped up with minutes and production, but his price has gone up, at least on DraftKings. So this is probably going to be a full pass for me as well.
Beautiful.
All right, 10 o'clock games. The first one.
After hours slate, ding, ding, ding.
Chicago and Golden State, 224.5 total. Bulls favored by 4.5 on the road here because Steph is questionable. We also have Eric Pascal questionable. On the Chicago side, Zach LaVine questionable,
Yeah.
Lauri Markkanen probable, and then Tice is questionable. And that's a little bit significant to me because Vucevic is the key guy there, and he has smashed against Golden State this year when he was
Yes,
on
yes.
Orlando. But I think Chicago is still going to be settling things in, sorting things out. And if Tice is there, he could get some minutes. So, with these other centers we've already mentioned that we like, I just don't think I'll get to Vucevic. And I'm not going to go with LaVine with the ankle issue. His production has been down here recently. And everybody now getting minutes off the bench for Chicago, like Troy Brown Jr., Aminu, Temple. I'm just going to stay away from Chicago on the main slate. Obviously, we'll have to deal with them on the after-hour slate, but I'd be more likely to play somebody on Golden State if Steph is out. Poole is an option. Wiggins is an option. And it's weird. He's 7,000 on FanDuel, Coach, and LaVine is 7,500. If you asked me a month ago if I would
It's
consider
shocking.
Wiggins over LaVine at those prices, I would have said absolutely not. But
I know it.
in these circumstances, if Steph is out, I might consider Wiggins, and that'll probably be it for me.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting, and I don't want to waste a ton of time on the podcast here because really we need to know if Curry's playing because that changes the whole outlook for Golden State. It also changes it for the Bulls because number one, he's not a good defender, so it elevates Sato and Levine and Kobe a little bit, and also it assures to me if Curry plays, this game stays pretty tight. So I need that news. So here's the thing. Rather than waste 5 minutes and you could fast forward because two or three of these guys change, what I would say, this is a perfect time to jump in at DFS Coach Talk. We had such a fun weekend. Our members, we got together on Saturday, tons of members in there, everybody sharing, everybody talking questions and where people are from, what their strategies. It's just what a great community. It was awesome. We're going to do that every Saturday. But, the great part about being a part of Coach Talk is these kind of games, the Chicago Golden State game, we need this news. And we'll follow it throughout the day. We're in our Discord. Everybody's in there. The second news pops, it's in our Discord. We're reacting. We're fixing lineups. We're doing everything that we need to do there. So even if you want to just try a 3-day pass, they're $10. Go to dfscoachtalk.com. The memberships are right on there. The other thing that's exclusive with us, and we're working on possibly even changing the names of these packages because we call them NBA package, MLB package. The MLB package, if you will, which we're probably going to change the name of, goes from April 1 to November 1. But guess what? That doesn't mean you just get baseball. And every other provider, pretty much, you have to get each sport by itself. We focus on 4 sports. That's our bread and butter. We're going to crush those 4. We're not going to waste time with the other ones. It's baseball, football, basketball, and golf, and we're going to attack them. And you get all of them, whichever membership you have. If it's the 3-day, if you're an annual member, if you're a baseball or basketball, if you've subscribed to those, you get everything that we offer. So we would love to have you. Jump in there, check it out, give us a chance, and I think you'll find a real home for your DFS world. And if you want to play some bets as we're getting in the lead 8, go to betus.com.pa, put in the promo code Coach Talk, all one word, no space, and you get, if you deposit for the first time with M149, you get the next 2 months free, all of April, all of May free with Coach Talk, and you can use the 149 on BetUS to make those wagers. So we'd love to have you. And then, I'll finish up this game to say, again, I need the Curry news. I do like Zach LaVine possibly as a buy-up option here, though. If this game stays close, I think he's okay. He's probable. I don't see it being a major injury. I think he's worth looking at. The sneaky guy that I like a little bit here, Andrew, I know you're not going to like him. It's Kelly Oubre. He's priced high and everything, but I'm seeing his game evolve. And the combination of all these guys they're using in Chicago with Markkanen and Williams, and then all these guys off the bench, they're tight. They're just trying to figure out their rotation. So I think he's dangerous. I'm not going to take Vuk at that big tag until he gets settled in. He looked a little out of place, which you would expect initially. So pretty easy one for me. Not real strong game, but Levine is growing on me, man.
Okay. How about the last one?
Last game, the other 10 o'clock, the late night slate game. It is Milwaukee and the Clippers. It's the first night of a back-to-back for the Clippers. That means, alert, alert, alert. Does that mean George or Leonard are going to sit, split, change, shift? I mean, God only knows. So we need to keep that news also. Fourth for Milwaukee, but 27th for Clippers. They neutralize each other. Two top 13 defenses here. So that concerns me. We know Tucker and Portis are out, so a little thin on the front line for Milwaukee, which makes Giannis look even a little better. Or Theonis, whatever his brother's name is, had the big game this weekend. You could take both Antetokounmpos if you want to get real frosty, but I would not do that. With all the guys back, I think Donis, or I'm crushing his last name or first name, but I doubt he's going to get in much, if at all. Rondo, Beverly, Ibaka remain out for the Clippers, and I have no idea with the first night of a back-to-back if they're going to slice, dice, and split guys. So the Clippers are sharing the ball, not thrilled for them in this game. I'm not going to have a lot of exposure here, except if I do save my buy-up, it would be for Giannis, just because I think he's rested. And I think that he's going to be fired up to get out here, and he's Giannis. So I don't particularly want to pay that top price on a 22-game slate, but I don't know if, this could be a 65, 70-point game for Giannis, and I don't want to miss out on that. So I'm considering it. That's it.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning towards fading all these Milwaukee guys because they're all back after sitting out. And, we do have the Clippers in that 27th pace. So I lean towards one of the Clippers potentially. I don't love that it's the front end of a back-to-back, but I like their prices. And the thing I like the most here is a potential one-off, a value play. On FanDuel, you've got an option at the first four spots, I think, that you could play. Reggie Jackson, 4,300 is your point guard. Mann, your shooting guard, 4,100. They both got 29 minutes in the last game, so Kennard has kind of been pushed to the side. Then you've got Batum as the small forward, 4,100. There's a playable guy. He had 35 minutes against Philly. Nice full line. And then Morris, 4,500 power forward option. So I think one of those guys could get in my lineup, get some exposure to this high-paced game from the Clippers' point of view to finish this one out.
Beautiful. I am good to go, man. We're ready to attack this slate and crush it. DFS Coach Talk, come join us.
Yep, join the family. You'll get full FanDuel lineups tonight and Yahoo, Coach's Clipboard on DraftKings. And we're going to hope to get on a huge winning streak here this week and get after it. So we do appreciate all the support. Appreciate you tuning in. If you like what you saw, please subscribe to the channel on YouTube and come back and join us again tomorrow because we'll be back and ready to crush it in DFS.